Thank you, Corrine, and hello and welcome everyone. We are very glad to have you join us today. In these very strange and uncertain times, the one thing that was not canceled or postponed was the Autodesk software releases. So that means it has been business as usual for our content development team. So as Corrine mentioned, I'm joined today by three of our subject matter experts, Jennifer McMillan, who's our Learning Content Development Manager and author of The Inventor, Fusion 360, and Plant 3D titles. Jeff Morris, our author for Civil 3D, BIM 360, InfraWorks, MAP, and Navisworks titles. And Therese Bidoff, our author for Revit Architecture, MEP, and Structure titles. So they will review the ASCENT 2021 release roadmap and provide an overview of what's new in the books for this release. As Corrine has just mentioned, please use the question section to post any questions that you have for us during the session, and we'll circle back to that at the very end. So just to give you a little bit of background on us, as an Autodesk authorized publisher, we must meet a strict set of requirements, including a minimum volume of published content, adherence to learning objectives, and specific technical and quality requirements. So our relationship with Autodesk gives us early access to new software releases, which means we can review the changes to the books with the goal of having introductory level titles ready to publish when the software is released, so you have access to content right away. We have a team of authors and subject matter experts which are dedicated to curriculum development, so that is their primary role. And they bring a wealth of real-world experience, including working with other CAD and PDM systems. The team has been hard at work already with several titles released and many more to come. So I'll pass it over to Jennifer to give you those highlights.
Great, thank you, Rhonda. So everyone, with the release of all of the new Autodesk products, every year we come out with what we call our roadmap, and then we publish this to our website when we're constantly updating it and marking books as they're released. So we work on like a monthly schedule, and here's a great example for our general design titles where we have the type of look that the roadmap will hold. So it'll tell you a little bit about what the book name, the unit, how long the teaching time is, as well as the estimated time of release. So one of the big questions we get every year with the release of this is, how do you come up with this roadmap? So basically what we do is we look at volumes sold the previous year, and that really gives us a very good idea of where you guys all need the books developed, which books to focus on. So that's generally what we do, and what we generally always find is that the fundamental level books are the biggest in demand. So like every year we focus on the fundamental level books. So just to kind of give you an idea through the general design, Renu Muthu is our developer for that. She is not joining us today, so I'll speak to these titles. We focus on, in terms of AutoCAD, getting the fundamentals level and advanced books out, and we actually have already released all of those books as of today. So that's all available now for you through our website. And in terms of the next book for her, she'll be looking at the 3ds Max title. That one is due out next month, which will likely be the end of June. I spoke to her and got a brief idea of what she's anticipating for that book in terms of changes. The biggest change that we're seeing with that software is that Autodesk has done a little bit of work regarding the Arnold renderer, so a little more integration directly into 3ds Max for that renderer. And our training guide will update any of those changes directly in it. So there'll be exercises that are affected, as well as some of the learning content that's in there. And as I mentioned, we're expecting that book out at the end of June. So keep an eye out on the roadmap for that publishing. In terms of the actual AutoCAD books, so that many of you on this call would be instructors. And in this call, what we aim at doing as well is kind of giving you a highlight of what is different in the books and the way you should prepare for your classes. So in terms of the AutoCAD content, the fundamentals level course. There were some really great little changes that were made, so I just wanted to briefly go through these. For those of you that have been teaching our books for a while now, one of the comments that we got from a few people was that the computer desktop that's used kind of throughout many of the exercises was a little outdated. So this year we took some time and we actually recreated that model so that it's an actual laptop. So we just made it give it a bit more contemporary look, and all of the exercises were updated to reflect that as well. In terms of trim and extend, Autodesk has revamped the workflow for those tools directly in AutoCAD. So that required rewrite of the content as well as the exercises in Chapter 11. So you'll see that's all new. So you'll want to be prepared for those when you go into your classes. In terms of quick measure, that also was enhanced. So that chapter as well reflects any of those changes. So that's dealt with in Chapter 9. So you'll see some changes there. There was the redesigned block palette as well has been updated with the 2021 release of AutoCAD. So in Chapter 12 as well, you'll see changes there, and that also reflected in the exercise. Finally, there was a new tool introduced in AutoCAD, the Compare XREF tool, and we did incorporate this into Chapter 31 of the Fundamentals Guide. We didn't create a unique exercise for this. However, it is mentioned in the exercise in that chapter, so there is reference with a few tasks to have users use it. So this is a great example where we always love to call out feedback from the trainers like yourselves. So, you know, if you find that this is a tool that you would like to use a unique exercise on, you know, definitely reach out to us and give us some feedback on how you like how we've implemented it, or if you think we should make some further modifications. In terms of manufacturing, so as Rhonda mentioned, I work on the manufacturing products, specifically the Inventor and the Fusion 360 books. So here I just want to talk a little bit about the Inventor side of things. In terms of our released material, we've already released actually a number of books as well, much like AutoCAD. Our fundamental level, which is the Intro to Solid Modeling, that's been released, as well as our 2 advanced titles. So we're definitely working really hard on getting these out. And there's actually a number of them that are actually very close as well to being released. So we are a little ahead of schedule. So the slowdown for everybody out there has actually worked out for us in terms of getting books to you a little faster. In terms of specific changes as an instructor and what you'll see in these books, Autodesk is continuing with their interface change, so changing everything from the dialog boxes over to the palettes. And this is also continued with 2021. Not so much in the intro guide, but in the advanced part and advanced assembly. Some of the more advanced features now are seeing those new palettes. So any of the new workflows have been mentioned and updated in the lecture material, as well as all of the exercises. If you're teaching the advanced assembly book, you'll definitely want to review the frame generator chapter. And that chapter has been updated a fair bit now. They did they were changing that all over to the palettes previously, and it's continued now and it's complete. So there's some really nice new tools. And in terms of the exercise, the workflow of the exercise actually had to be rewritten as well to deal with that. So definitely prepare yourself by looking at that. iLogic isn't yet released. However, the development has started on that, and we're close to finishing that one up. One of the nice things there is they've actually added some new drawing functionality, so some new snippets. A whole new category has been added. So we're looking at incorporating that as well into the drawing chapter and adding an exercise to that. So that'll be something as well you want to make sure you're prepared for going into the class. In terms of the rest of the stuff, definitely keep an eye on our development schedule, and you can and see how we're doing with that over the course of the next number of months. One before I pass it over to Jeff is the mention that we've released a new book actually in February of 2020, so just a few months ago. And this is an actual Inventor 2020 book, and it's called Introduction to 2D Milling. So this is a brand new title for us, and I just wanted to spend a minute discussing this. The aim with this book is to instruct new users on how to use the CAM, or it used to be called the HSM add-on, in terms of creating 2D milling toolpaths. So the course is, it begins with an introduction to the overall interface of Inventor, because it's not necessary to actually have the introduction to solid modeling class as a prerequisite. There are many users that won't be designing the model. However, they may need to create all the toolpaths. So we start that book with a bit of an introduction on, the interface, navigating the model, using the model browser, those types of things. And then we jump into creating the toolpaths. And what's key here is the 2D milling portion. This is our first release of this book, and right now it is only focused on the 2D milling toolpaths. So we cover face, 2D adaptive, 2D pocket, 2D contour, and then finally some drilling toolpaths. It's aimed at being a one-day class, and over the next coming year or two, we'll be incorporating additional toolpaths into this. So the title of this book may change because we'll be introducing some 3D milling paths as well as some turning as well. So we just got a lot of feedback from people that they didn't want to wait till everything was created, a whole book. And with the new release 2021 coming out, we thought the timing was perfect to put out what we had for just the 2D milling. And it'll fit beautifully into a one-day, 8-hour class. So we're starting to get some good feedback on this course. So absolutely another great opportunity to reach out to us and let us know what you think, what you might like to see, that type of thing. And with that, I'm going to, one more, sorry about that. So data management. We have one other developer, Barb Nash, who works on all of our data management tools. So that's all the Vault titles. She just wanted me to give a brief introduction here as well in terms of the titles. So we've right now released the data management for Inventor users. So this one is a one-day class that is actually focused on the user skills that you need to use for Vault. A companion book to that, many users for AutoCAD. It's another one-day book. That one will be available in the next week or so. It'll be sent to the printer in the next couple of days. So it's going well. In terms of that Inventor users book, if you're teaching that book, you'll definitely want to take a look at that. There is some new material added into Chapter 6, and this is all new functionality that has been added by Autodesk during the 2020.2 release. So not necessarily with 2021, but because we released our book last year based on 2020.0, it wasn't in the book at that time. So this is all the duplicate search functionality, specifically find duplicates, and then also explaining the duplicates dashboard. And all of the content reflects that as well. You'll also want to take note of changes that were made to the setup, the software setup section at the beginning of the guide in terms of being prepared with that. One thing that we did a little differently with this was this the duplicates tool is a subscription feature for Autodesk Vault Professional. We just felt it was very much unneeded and an excellent tool, and we decided to incorporate that into the guide. So you may find in your classes, and it'd be definitely worth mentioning to your students, that they may or may not have that back at the office because whether or not depends on their subscription, if they have the subscription feature or not. But it was definitely something we wanted to talk to. And then one final thing, we don't have it on the roadmap as of this moment, but a plan is that we're looking to release an Autodesk Vault Professional Administration Essentials book. So if you've taught the three essentials books that are here, the basic, professional, and work group, you'll know that there is a combination of user and administration tasks in there. And what we're looking to do is pull out the administration side there and create one guide that would be just focused for administrators. So that's something that we're looking to have out by a little later in the year. But definitely that's something in terms of feedback, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You can always reach out to us. And Rhonda will be sharing all our contact information at the end of this presentation. So just with that, I will hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I'm here to talk about the books within my my arena, which is Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Navisworks, and BIM 360 and MAP. So with regard to Civil 3D 2021 fundamentals, I started with some changes last year in the 2020 release where I reorganized the folder structure a little bit. And this continues on with 2021. And I'm realigned the folder structure to fall in line with a more professional civil project, mimicking the folder structure that could be found in your local area networks, or even going into projects that are housed in a BIM 360 hub. And I also changed the order of the chapters around to reflect a more realistic workflow as one works through civil projects. So I've reorganized the chapters, moved some ahead and some back. For the upcoming survey and the grading courses, such changes already occurred in last year in the 2020 release. So this year's release, the folder structure will have changed a little bit, but the order of the chapters will more or less be the same as it was in the 2020 release. For the fundamentals courses, new topics were introduced, including section views for the sheet set manager. We enhanced the pressure pipes with some new features. And I also introduced multi-view blocks and more visualization tools. So there are a lot of changes throughout the 2021 fundamentals book, and I would highly encourage you to look through it before you teach it. And I also issued a blog on that, going through the various changes within the 2021 fundamentals. Started the grading book. We renamed the grading book to Civil 3D Fundamentals for Land Developers, with grading in brackets. To let you know that this is a fundamentals course on par with the other fundamentals course that we have, and that it focuses on grading for land development as compared to roadside grading. Okay. With regard to BIM 360, we continue to evolve this course. And as you may have realized, last year we combined, there were 3 separate books, which we combined into one book. And this gave us the ability to add chapters to BIM 360 as more modules get released by Autodesk. So we currently have, in the current release, we've added BIM 360 Design, which includes collaboration for Revit and Civil 3D. BIM 360 Coordinate, which is the new name for Glue, and BIM 360 Build, which is the new name for BIM 360 Field. And as more modules get introduced, we are on the BIM 360 beta site. So we constantly keep an eye on that and evaluating new modules or new features as to when a new book should be released. Sometimes the update, the interface changes completely to kind of force us into releasing a new book. So we constantly keep an eye on new developments in BIM 360. There's so many changes that constantly occur. The software is cloud-based, so we're kind of at the mercy of Autodesk as new changes occur in the cloud, and we do our best to reflect that in our current books. And as usual, we love to hear any feedback from you as to the state of our books and to how to improve it. With regard to InfraWorks, that has gone through, the interface has gone through major changes. It's a completely different interface. And there's even a new start screen on the horizon for the new dot release of InfraWorks, which will look very similar to the 2021 Civil 3D start screen. When InfraWorks was when our books were originally introduced, it was at the time where we had the InfraWorks course program, as well as the 3 engineering modules, road design, waterworks, and bridge design, that were a separate add-on that needed to be purchased. Since then, they are all in one program, and they are so interspersed with the new interface that it's hard to tell them apart anymore. So therefore, originally we had 2 courses for InfraWorks, one for conceptualization and conceptual design and visualization, and the other one for engineering design. We combined those 2 into one InfraWorks 2021 fundamentals book. The original courses were two-day courses each. The new course will be a 3-day course. With regard to Navisworks, there hasn't been too much new in the Navisworks 2021 software. However, we are evaluating adding new chapters, new content to our Navisworks in a BIM 360 workflow course, including quantification, rendering, and scripting. And this will probably push our original 2-day course to a 3-day course. So please let me know what you think about that, and if you think that's a good idea. Those were things that I found lacking in the existing course. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Charisse to discuss the Revit books. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. And saving the best for last, these are the planned roadmap dates for Revit titles. As you can see, the 3 fundamental books, the Imperial Architecture, MEP, and Structure are all released. And the MEP metric is coming out at the beginning of June, and then the metric version of Structure will be available later on in June. One note I'd like to mention in terms of previous release books is the Collaboration Tools book. The 2020 version 2.0 had been changed due to Autodesk licensing change. This is where they switched the serial number activation to user sign-in or single sign-in activation. So I needed to rethink how to get the Revit work sharing in alignment with the training, and doing this without needing to set it up, or how a trainer could do it by setting sharing up. Previously, our practices were set up for one user to open 2 sessions of Revit and change the username so they could mimic a work environment. But with the single sign-in, this is no longer, this can't be achieved basically. And so my solution to this was in chapter 4 at practice 4D. I've added videos that walk the students through each task of a work set practice. And then if applicable, I've arranged the practices so that the users could work with at least one other person if a shared folder location could be established. I also have a blog on this that goes well into giving more details on that and the whys. And then the Revit 2021 all fundamental guides. I always add new information since the last guide came out, which would include 2020.1 and then the 0.2, and of course the 2021 enhancements and features. So in Revit 2021, there are a variety of enhancements that impact all of the fundamental guides, like the ability to stripe schedules and actually see them on sheets, and then PDF linking. So I've updated the hint about the PDF importing and linking and plan to cover this in more depth in the collaboration tools book. I've also will be including more advanced enhancements to work sharing and new operators for enabling view filters and guides such as BIM management and the collaboration tools. And then of course the architecture book with the creating slant walls. This has been added in chapter 5, but it was not incorporated into the practices because a lot of feedback that I had received was that it would be too complex, too advanced to throw into a practice. But I'd love to hear your feedback on if you would like to see this in a practice or if it's great just learning about slanted walls and that's it. And then for trainers, working with work sets has been moved from the appendix to chapter 3 to introduce work sharing where it would be used in the design process. So people can understand where that would be introduced when setting up a project. And then Revit structure. So in chapter 9, structural reinforcements, I've added information on how to modify the rebar hook rotation and hook length. And for trainers specifically, in chapter 9, I've added modifying rebar hook to the rebar practice as shown here, where it's showing before, the rebar before and then after. And then Revit MEP, I have updated the guide with information on panel schedules and the sheet views. And I made sure that each practice included the different disciplines like mechanical, electrical, and plumbing where applicable. For example, in chapter 5, working with views, each discipline now has its own practice for each of the 3 exercises. And then introduction to work sets has been moved from Appendix A to chapter 3, of course, to introduce where it should be in the stage of design process. And as you can see, the structural guide was not reorganized because we really wanted to add the rebar hook rotation and hook length information into the practice. We also get into the calipers. So this took a lot of the extra time we had in this course, but as always, we love to hear feedback on this. And with that, that is all for my Revit books. These were the major courseware changes that Jennifer, Jeff, and I wanted to share with you. Please keep in mind that we love to get feedback. And in fact, this really helps drive the changes and enhancements that we make every year. And at the end of the presentation, Rhonda will share how you can reach us to share any comments or questions you might have. So with that, I'll hand the presentation back to Rhonda.
Great. Thank you, Charisse, and thank you all for that great overview. So I will touch on briefly our product formats for those of you who may not be familiar with them, or just an update for those that do. The learning guides that we have are the course guides that are used by the students, and each of those guides includes the link to download the practice files used in the course. And then using that learning guide as a basis, we then created an instructor guide to provide a single resource from which to teach. So these can also be used by anyone that might be working through the course on their own and they want some additional content. But the instructor guide includes that complete learning guide that the students are using, plus it's got the answers to the chapter review questions, suggested timing guide for course delivery, how long to spend on each section, and then some of them also include a link to instructor presentation files. Both the learning guide and the instructor guide are available in either the print or the ebook format, so you have some flexibility there. The print versions can be purchased through the ASCENT e-store or through Amazon. The content, the size, everything is identical. The only difference is the binding. So books that you would purchase through the ASCENT store have a coil binding, where the ones on Amazon have a solid spine that's called perfect binding. The ebooks offer a great green alternative for the printed guide. It's got nice features like color content, highlighting, note sharing, and these are really convenient if you're teaching or you're a student and you're on the go and you don't want to carry that the heavy book around with you. We also have e-learning bundles, which are a great way to become productive quickly through a subscription access to multiple learning guides in ASCENT's e-learning portal. We've got some pre-packaged bundles for AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Inventor, and Revit, and you can see the descriptions for those on our website, and it'll show you specifically which titles are included. I don't have it noted on the slide, but we do also have a digital site license, which is designed for high volume training, but it allows you to print on demand. So if you're interested in that, you can please contact us. Now I'll just go over a little bit some of the services that we offer. So in addition to the standard courseware that most people certainly know us for, we also offer a wide array of services. So whether you are delivering training to your internal users or your customers, you certainly want to ensure that they receive the most effective training possible. So ASCENT can work with you to add, their unique models and workflows into our existing content. We can rearrange our content to a specific need, or we can also create more custom material that, might better fit a certain process. Our team can also employ some unique tools like instructional animations and interactive tutorials to really get your users productive quickly. We also do a wide range of documentation projects. So this may or may not be related to training. So this includes working with companies, for instance, to document their PLM processes to really enhance the investment that they've made in those products. Additionally, if you or your clients perhaps have inconsistent documentation across several departments, our technical writers can reorganize those for your team to update or to use and then update themselves as needed down the road. And we also create end user product guides for manufacturers. So you may not be aware we do something like that, but you can see then we've got quite a lot of crossover into other areas that you may not be familiar with. And finally, our contact information is here. And as we mentioned, we really love your feedback. It really helps us, make sure we're addressing the training needs that are out there. So please reach out to us. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn to get news and updates. As you can tell, we've got quite a lot to come yet with the releases. So we'll be sharing updates and information as the weeks and the months proceed or go on. And the 2021 release roadmap, you've seen snippets of it in the slides, but we have a single document that's posted to the resources page of our website. And so you want to go there and just watch that for updates because it will get updated periodically as we move through this release cycle. You can access our blog from the homepage or the resources page of the website as well. And just as a reminder, the blog posts, as I think was mentioned, do include Q&A follow-up from all of our webinar series. So please be sure to check those out as well. And again, from the entire ASCENT team, thank you very much for your time today. We hope you stay safe and stay well. And I will now turn it back to Corinne to see if we have any questions.